Yesterday was a day I'll always remember. It started like any other day, but my nephew surprised me. I decided to make breakfast, and the sun was shining through the window, making the kitchen warm and bright. I felt great, as if nothing could go wrong. I got up, brushed my teeth, and went to. I was excited to cook something tasty. I chose to make pancakes, my nephew's favorite. While I was mixing the batter, I heard birds chirping and cars driving by outside. It was peaceful. When the pancakes were sizzling on the griddle, my nephew walked in, rubbing his eyes with a smile. "What's for breakfast?" he asked, clearly. I was excited to make pancakes. I told my nephew, "We're having pancakes for breakfast." He was excited. I flipped the pancakes, and the sweet smell filled the air. He suddenly said, "Let's go on an adventure today." I raised an eyebrow, wondering what he meant. We often went on little outings, but this felt different. He talked about exploring the nearby park and looking for hidden treasures. I felt a thrill at the idea. After breakfast, we grabbed some snacks and headed out. The sun was shining even brighter now, and I felt energized. We wandered through the park, searching for anything interesting. We found unusual this felt different. He suggested we go to the nearby park and look for hidden treasures. I felt excited. After breakfast, we grabbed some snacks and left. The sun was shining even brighter, and I felt energized. We wandered through the park, searching for anything interesting. We found rocks, pretty flowers, and even a few bugs. My nephew's excitement made the day even more fun. By the time we got home, I was tired but happy. I never expected such a simple morning to turn into a memorable adventure. I realized I hadn't just made pancakes, I had created a special day with my nephew. Looking back, I will always cherish this day. I had this feeling that today was going to be a great day. As I gathered the ingredients, I could smell the fresh air coming in through the window. I started with some eggs and bacon, knowing that it was going to taste amazing. The sound of the sizzling bacon made me smile. While I cooked, I thought about how nice it was to have some quiet time in the morning before the day got busy. It was my little moment of peace. I was almost done cooking when I realized I forgot something important: hot dogs. How could I forget? Hot dogs were my nephew's favorite, and he would always ask for them whenever we had breakfast together. It was his favorite meal. I felt a bit of panic because I knew how much he looked forward to having them. I could already imagine my nephew's face lighting up when he saw them on the table. He had this funny thing about hot dogs: it didn't matter what else was on his plate. We had breakfast together. He couldn't have a meal without them. I felt a bit of panic because I knew how much he looked forward to having them. I could already imagine my nephew's face lighting up when he saw them on the table. He had this funny thing about hot dogs. It didn't matter what else was on his plate as long as they were hot dogs. I wasn't sure why he loved them so much, but I didn't want to disappoint him. I knew I had to get them ready before he woke up. "Oh no, where are those hot dogs?" I muttered, feeling a bit stressed as I realized that Stefan, my nephew, would be coming down for breakfast any minute. I looked for the hot dogs in the kitchen quickly, hoping to find them before Stefan arrived. Stefan loves hot dogs more than anything, and I didn't want to disappoint him. The thought of him asking for his favorite breakfast made me move even faster. Just as I was about to give up, I heard a calm voice behind me. "What's got you all worked up?" I turned around when I heard the voice. It was Stefan, not my mom. He had a relaxed smile, and I felt my panic ease up. He was clearly curious about why I was so stressed. "Oh, well," I stammered, feeling embarrassed. "Please don't be upset, Stefan. I forgot to cook your favorite breakfast. Hot dogs." My voice trailed off, and I felt a wave of guilt wash over me. I was so sure he would be disappointed, but I had to admit my mistake. It was so strange that morning because it was the first time I ever saw Stefan smiling like that. Usually, my nephew had a gloomy face and barely spoke to anyone, except for. I stopped talking and looked at Stefan. He was smiling, and I felt surprised. Usually, Stefan was always sad and didn't talk to people, except for me. His smile was surprising, and it made the moment feel strange, but nice. It was like seeing a new side of him. I asked, "Are you sure you're okay without hot dogs?" I asked, still worried. You like hot dogs, right? I felt like I had disappointed him, but I needed to know if he was really okay. I was surprised by his smile, which made the moment feel unusual, but also nice. It was like seeing a different side of him. Are you sure you're okay without hot dogs? I asked, still worried. You like hot dogs, right? I felt like I had let him down, but I needed to know if he was really fine. Stefan usually made it clear when something wasn't the way he liked it. Well, yes, I do, Stefan said, his voice calm. But you forgot to make them. Let me ask you something. Do you like to eat hot dogs? His tone was curious, and he moved closer, almost too close, looking me right in the eyes. It was a strange moment, and I wasn't sure how to respond. I said, yeah, hot dogs are great for breakfast, and felt my heart start to race. For some reason, I felt nervous, and I couldn't explain why. Maybe it was because Stefan was acting strangely, or maybe it was just the weirdness of the situation. I knew something felt different. I want you to try this hot dog, Stefan said, moving his hands toward his package. I was surprised by what he said because it sounded strange, and his actions were a bit odd. We don't have any hot dogs, I replied quickly, feeling nervous. I forgot to buy some at the market. I explained, talking so fast that I almost stumbled over my words. He didn't seem to care that there were no actual hot dogs. His focus was elsewhere, and I could tell something was different about the way he was acting. That's okay, he said, still looking at me in a way that made me feel uneasy. His hands kept. I told him about the market, but I spoke so quickly that I almost stumbled over my words. He didn't seem to care that there were no actual hot dogs. His focus was elsewhere, and I could tell something was different about the way he was acting. That's okay, he said, still looking at me in a way that made me feel uneasy. His hands kept playing with his package, and I didn't know what to do or say. At that moment, it felt like everything had changed in the air, like a shift I wasn't ready for. I tried to stay calm, even though my heart was beating faster. Maybe we can just have something else for breakfast, I suggested, hoping to move the conversation along. I tried to stay calm, even though my heart was beating faster. I suggested that we have something else for breakfast to change the subject. I didn't understand why he was acting this way, and it made me feel confused and anxious. Stefan looked at me, still holding his package. It's not about the food, he said softly. But I could feel a tension in the room that hadn't been there before. It was hard. I felt uneasy, and I wasn't sure how to handle it. I just wanted things to go back to normal, but it felt like normal was slipping further away. Stefan said the package in his pants grew bigger and bigger suddenly. I couldn't breathe, my heart was pounding, and I didn't know what to do because everything felt so strange. I stood there, frozen, trying to make sense of what was happening. My mind raced with confusion, and I kept thinking, this isn't real, this isn't happening. But the more I looked, the more I couldn't breathe. My heart was beating very fast. I didn't know what to do because everything felt strange. I stood there, frozen, trying to understand what was happening. My mind raced with confusion. The air felt heavy. I kept thinking, this isn't real. This isn't happening. But the more I looked around, the more I realized something was definitely wrong. His package kept getting bigger. I could see that his pants were already wet. I tried to step back, but my legs felt weak. They didn't want to move. Stefan just stood there, watching me with that same strange smile on his face. I didn't know what to say. I thought to myself, what's going on? I felt like something was off, and I wanted to say something, but I couldn't. Stefan grabbed my shoulders and turned me around, as if he wanted to show me something important. I was surprised. I was surprised by what he was doing, but I didn't say anything at first. I just went along with it, trying to figure out what was going on. Then he said something serious. I'm going to let you taste this hot dog. I didn't understand what he was saying, but I stayed still, hoping things would start to make more sense soon. I didn't know what was going on, but I didn't say anything at first. I just went along with it, trying to figure out what was going on. Then he said, sounding serious, I'm going to let you taste this hot dog. I didn't understand what he was saying, but I stayed still, hoping things would start to make more sense soon. Then, all of a sudden, his package moved. It slithered straight into my buns, disappearing so quickly that I didn't know what to think. My heart raced, and I felt even more confused. Wait, this isn't right, Stefan, I said, finally finding my voice. I didn't understand what he was trying to do or why he thought this was okay. Everything about the situation felt wrong, and I wanted to stop it. Things got worse. Stefan didn't seem to hear me, or maybe he just didn't care. He kept moving his penis through my vagina, acting like nothing strange was happening. I stood there, feeling like I was in a dream that didn't make sense. Stefan, stop, I said, hoping he would listen this time. But he kept going. I felt stuck, unsure of what to do next. Relax, Stefan said calmly, you'll love it. His package was still moving back and forth, and I closed my eyes. Stop, I said, hoping he would listen this time, but he didn't. I felt stuck, unsure of what to do next. Relax, Stefan said calmly, you'll love it. His hands were still moving back and forth, and I couldn't help but close my eyes. Then he suddenly withdrew his hands and wet them with his saliva. I didn't know why he did this, but like before, I stayed quiet and didn't do anything. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what was going on, but I just couldn't move or speak. Here goes. Just stay still. You're going to love it, Stefan said. He sounded so confident as he put his wet hands through my dumplings. Everything felt strange. I wasn't sure if I should let him continue, but before I could say anything, it happened. Oh no, I shouted so loudly that my voice echoed in the room. I wasn't even sure why I was shouting. It was like my body reacted. I couldn't describe it. My mind told me to stop, to tell Stefan to leave, but my body did not know what to do. I was frozen, torn between wanting to end it and being curious about what would happen next. Of course, my negative thoughts took over. I couldn't describe what was happening. I wanted to stop, but I also wanted to see what would happen next. I felt angry because Stefan was slowing down. I shouted, please don't slow down. I love it. I felt ashamed, but I couldn't explain why. I didn't want to admit it, but I was enjoying it. I realized he was slowing down, and it made me angry. Please don't slow down. I love it, I shouted, not understanding why I was feeling this way. I felt ashamed. I didn't want him to stop just because he thought I didn't like it. As I said this, I could see the surprise on Stefan's face. It was like he didn't expect me to react this way. I could tell that my feelings were confusing him, but I didn't care. I just wanted him to keep going and to feel the excitement that had built up inside me. My heart raced with a mix of emotions, and it was almost hard to believe. I was still ashamed, but I couldn't help myself. I wanted more. Stefan seemed to hesitate for a moment, but then he smiled, and I could see that my words had given him confidence. He started to move again, and I felt a rush of happiness. I was caught up in this strange feeling, and it felt nice to be able to express what I wanted. I wished I could just forget the guilt and focus on the... I realized that feelings can be confusing, especially when you don't know what to expect next. I was still ashamed, but I couldn't help myself. I wanted more. Stefan seemed to hesitate for a moment, but then he smiled. I could see that my words had given him confidence. He started to move again, and I felt a rush of happiness. I was caught up in this strange feeling, and it felt nice to be able to express what I wanted. I wished I could just forget the guilt and focus on the moment. As we continued, I found myself enjoying the experience even more. The worries and shame began to fade away, replacing a sense of freedom. I let myself sink into the moment, allowing the happiness to take over. It was as if everything else had disappeared, and all that mattered was what was happening. I felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I could just enjoy the moment without any thoughts holding me back. You seem to enjoy it so much, Stefan said with a grin. His voice made the moment feel exciting, and I felt a rush of warmth inside. Can I show you a greater experience? Is this better than this? He asked, full of curiosity. Without waiting for an answer, he picked me up in his arms and carefully let his penis slide through my vagina. It was like he was giving me a special adventure, and I was caught up in the excitement of it all as he held me. I could see how much he wanted to make me feel loved. It was almost as if I was very alive. In that moment, I felt happy to be cared for. I could picture myself smiling, feeling warm and safe in Stefan's arms, even though I wasn't moving much. It felt like I was part of something special. There was something magical about how Stefan was treating me, making me feel important. I was having so much fun that I really didn't want him to stop. It felt exciting and new, and I wished we could keep going forever. I was so caught up in how great it felt. I was so caught up in enjoying myself that I didn't care how long it took. I just wanted him to continue. So, when he suddenly stopped, I felt a wave of disappointment wash over me. I couldn't help but wonder why he had paused. I hoped he would start again soon. Just when I thought the moment was over, he said something that caught my attention. "It's going to come out now," he announced. I was confused and didn't know what he meant. My heart started pounding. I was eager to know what he was talking about. Was it something else? I leaned in closer, eager to hear what he was going to say next. My mind swirled with questions. Then he explained, "This is the hot dog I want you to taste. This is the hot dog I was talking about." I blinked in surprise, trying to understand what he was saying. It was a strange idea, but something about his words made me feel intrigued. I was curious, so I asked what he was talking about. Was it something else? I leaned in closer, eager to hear what he was going to say next. My mind swirled with questions. Then he explained, "This is the hot dog I want you to taste. This is the hot dog I was talking about." I blinked in surprise, trying to understand what he was saying. It was a strange idea, but something about his words made me feel intrigued. My imagination began to run wild, and I could almost picture what he meant. Maybe this was all part of a fun game, something that would make our time together even more exciting. I wanted to know what would happen next. I was completely taken aback when I saw Stefan act so quickly. He suddenly grabbed his reddish package and pushed it right into my mouth. I watched in disbelief as he put it in my mouth. It was so big that it almost broke my mouth. It looked like it was alive, twisting and turning, as if it wanted to break free. My heart raced as I realized how intense the situation was becoming. I didn't know what to think or say because I was so surprised by what was happening right in front of me. His package kept writhing and throbbing, and I felt a mix of fear and curiosity. It looked so powerful, almost like it was trying to. It looked like it wanted to break free. I was worried that my mouth wouldn't hold up, so I held my breath. I felt nervous, but I also felt excited. I had never seen anything like this before. My mind was racing with thoughts about what could happen next. Stefan, I was worried that my mouth wouldn't hold up, so I held my breath. I was nervous, but I also felt a little excited. I had never seen anything like this before. Stefan jumped with excitement, saying, "It's here, it's here." His eyes were closed, and he seemed almost like he was waiting for a surprise. I felt my heart begin to race, wondering what was about to happen next. The way he acted made me curious and a little anxious at the same time. I could tell that whatever he was excited about was something big, and I was eager to see it unfold. Then, without warning, my mouth I was excited, and I jumped up and down. I said, "It's here, it's here." I closed my eyes, and I seemed like I was waiting for a surprise. I felt my heart beat faster, and I was curious and a little nervous. I could tell that he was excited about something big, and I was eager to see it. Then, without warning, I felt my mouth react to the throbbing of his penis. It released a thick, white liquid, and it poured out through my mouth. Some of it even spilled onto the ground, creating little puddles that glistened in the light. The taste of the sweet liquid was something I had never experienced before. It was so delicious that I found myself wanting more and more. I couldn't believe how something so strange could be so enjoyable. I reacted to the throbbing of his penis. It released a thick, white liquid, and it poured out through my mouth. Some of it even spilled onto the ground, creating little puddles that glistened in the light. The taste of the sweet liquid was something I had never experienced before. It was so delicious that I found myself wanting more and more. I couldn't believe how something so strange could be so enjoyable. However, just like they say, all good things must come to an end. I felt a little sad knowing that the exciting moment we shared was over, but I was grateful for the experience. When Stefan finished, he looked so relieved, as if a huge weight had been lifted off his shoulder. I was still trying to wrap my mind around everything that had just happened, but he didn't leave me alone for long. Stefan stepped forward. We had a great time, but it was over. I felt sad, but I was also grateful for what we had done. When Stefan finished, he looked so relieved. It was like he was finally free. I was still trying to understand what had just happened, but he didn't leave me alone. Stefan stepped forward and started to help me clean up the mess he had made. We wiped away the spilled venom together. I felt many emotions: surprise, joy, and confusion. After we cleaned up, Stefan came closer to me. His smile was bright, and he looked genuinely happy. I blinked in surprise. I still tried to understand what he said. Part of me wanted to laugh at how serious he was. He started to help me clean up the mess he made as we wiped away the spilled venom. I felt many emotions: surprise, joy, and confusion. After we cleaned up, Stefan came closer to me. His smile was bright, and he looked genuinely happy. I blinked in surprise, still trying to understand what he said. Part of me wanted to laugh at how serious he was about hot dogs. After our adventure, I felt a strange connection to him as he walked away. I stood in the kitchen, feeling a bit lost. I realized I hadn't even had breakfast yet. What started as a simple morning had turned into something unexpected and exciting. Still, I knew I had shared something special with my nephew. I smiled, remembering how much fun we had, and I couldn't wait to see what would happen next.